For those of you that don't know me yet, we haven't met, I'm Jeff Fouche. I'm joined this morning by my wife, Annie. As Joe hinted, we are formerly MAF, Mission Aviation Fellowship, and we were serving in Haiti with the MAF Haiti team. And unfortunately, we were withdrawn in May on MFI DC-3s, and we were brought here searching the Lord and searching ourselves and evaluating opportunities such as they were. MFI was on the short list, and it was a good opportunity, and we're happy to be here. As for my history, it seems to stretch on day by day. Is that a sign I'm getting old? Might be. I think I'll set a hook, and I'll begin by skipping to the middle. I'm from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, is where we still maintain a home, actually. And I was driving north on a local road called Ramsey Road. And at the time, I owned a flight school based at the Coeur d'Alene Airport. I had 3 airplanes and a simulator. I was the only instructor. It was February, which is a dark, dark month for a flight school in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And I'm driving north in my Jeep. I was almost bankrupt. Didn't have enough to make payroll the next week. And yet inside me, I had this inexpressible lightness, this joy, like I was free. I was free. And that, I would say, would describe the moment that I really grasped, really understood what the Lord had done for me. So far, this is only halfway through the story. To get there, to explain some of that context though, now we can start at the beginning and see what led to that moment. I can barely read my own handwriting here. Okay, so I'm Gen X with a millennial split. I was born in 1979 in Redding, California. My dad at the time was completing his residency as a family practice doctor. That was his dream. After serving in the military, he wanted to help people, not shoot them, his actual words. We moved to the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area in 1980, so I barely remember California. Actually, I don't remember California, let's be honest. And a few years after that, we moved to Post Falls, which these days is a suburb of Coeur d'Alene, but at the time was a bedroom community a few miles west of Coeur d'Alene. My dad established his practice. My mom, a few years later, started a school all on her own. She was well educated as well, but she started a small Christian school that went for years, many years. I grew up going to Sunday school at a Presbyterian church there in Post Falls. Lots of good memories there. My parents were believers, but I can't recall having a conversion experience. I even remember being a little jealous in high school of these kids that were coming into the church and having these big conversion experiences, and I couldn't relate. It wasn't there for me. I guess always believed there was a God and Jesus, and he had died for me. So then I struggled I went to my mom's school and through junior high. So then stepping out of a small Christian school at the time, it was 50 or 60 kids, to a large high school in another town. My parents sent me to school in Spokane for my first 2 years of high school. Out of that really small Christian environment to an allegedly Catholic school. 2 years of that, and I moved back to Post Falls High School, and the environment actually improved, to give you an idea. Post Falls, Idaho was a small town. The kids were drinking, partying on the weekends, but the actual in-school environment was considerably healthier. And I had more friends that I made to this day that lived at least nearby. We lived outside of town, so it was hard to have neighbors. Let's see, I graduated Post Falls High School in '98 as a B student. I did kind of the minimum to get by. And didn't really know what I wanted to be yet, but my parents encouraged me to go to college, and so I went to Northwest Nazarene College in Nampa, Idaho for a year, pursuing computer science. That didn't end well because I discovered I hated programming. So that was not the major for me. At the time, they didn't have a mechanical engineering degree, and after talking with my parents, trying to figure out what's next, I decided to pursue a degree in engineering. So we stopped, or I left NNU, came back home. There was a small community college where I went for a year. And they had a agreement with the state college that, you know, all my credits would transfer and all that. That is the year that I got this. I was in a serious ATV accident, not wearing a helmet. I was 19. Remember, you're invincible until you turn 20. And I broke my leg, and it was 2 years before I could jog again, which certainly slowed me down in terms of, I'll say, some of the activities that I love to do most. But nonetheless, I finished that year of college, went to U of I, and eventually graduated with a BS in mechanical engineering in 2003. My mom unfortunately left us in 2002, my senior year of college, and she passed away unexpectedly of a heart attack while leading a summer camp for the school that she still ran. Very unfortunate situation. If she'd been in town, it's likely she would have lived, but she was doing what she did best and leading. I'll rewind a little bit and say I switched from Presbyterian to Nazarene in high school, where I met that young lady. Her uncle was our pastor, and her parents, remember this is a different generation, let her drive 2 hours at night in the snow to go to a ski retreat with our youth group that was north of town somewhere. And she will tell the story very differently about how I how I behaved and how suave I was. I just remember being terrified mostly. But she was cute, we hit it off, and we talked for a while, and then, you know, this was back in the day when you had to pay for long distance, and she lived in a town about 2 hours away, so that kind of faded for the moment. We were reunited after my mom passed away. My mom and dad liked to go on work trips to Guatemala, was a connection through our pastor. Annie's mom was born there. Annie's mom was our pastor's sister, therefore the uncle relationship. And so Guatemala was a common site for my parents to work and give. My dad would go as a doctor and see basically the whole village in one day, you know. And my to-be wife had attended a work trip with my parents, and through that experience, she will say that she stalked me, looked up my email on the U of I website, and reached out. And then when my mom passed away, we already had kind of a pen pal relationship going, and so she came over for the memorial, and we hit it off again and decided to make another run at it. Where was I? Oh yes, so then I graduated college. Let's see here. Lost track of my notes here. Okay, there we are. So I graduated in 2003. Annie and I were now a going concern, although she lived in Seattle at the moment. That summer, I now know, was kind of a period of grieving. I'd finished school, but my mom had passed away the September prior, and my brother and I were off school at the same time, and we kind of hung out a lot that summer. And looking back on it now, that was a way that we grieved the loss of my mother. I also earned my pilot's license. My private pilot license was earned that summer in a little Cherokee 140 that's still flying, actually. Then that fall, I got my first real job. Annie moved to the area to be closer after experiencing a job loss of her own. And then kind of fast forwarding through the next 10 to 12 years in interests of time, professionally would see me struggling to find my place in the engineering world. I worked at a electronics manufacturer in Coeur d'Alene for a while, and then I went to a robotics place in Spokane for a while, but then I came back to the electronics manufacturer for a while. Tried to hang out my own shingle, made it 6 months before we were broke. So then I had to go get a real job again, and ended up as an engineering manager at a plastics molding plant. So they made the, plastic widgets is what we made. Let's see. While back at the electronics manufacturer though, in 2011, Annie and I had struggled to have kids. It was a long journey for us, but we were elated to welcome our daughter in the summer of 2011. The spring of 2011, I was sitting in church and I watched another MAF pilot give his, kind of 5 minutes of glory there in front of the what's the word? Congregation. There it is. English is hard this morning. And I was riveted to my seat. He was showing, an airplane going and doing stuff that I didn't know airplanes did, even though I was a pilot. And I had to be a part of that. That moment changed the entire trajectory of my life and through me, my wife's life, for reasons I'll get into in a minute. So 2011 saw me being called. I got back into flying. Our daughter arrived in 2011. Noisy package that she was. And then, in order to become a pilot for MAF, really any missionary organization, not just MAF, there's a lot of experience and ratings that you have to get. And so I worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs on the side to make ends meet, and it was a very busy time. But I did finally get all of my ratings. Days after my son was born, praise the Lord, we had a second kid, again a miracle kid, in 2014. Along the way, I discovered a love for teaching flying. I didn't get into being a flight instructor to teach. I got into being a flight instructor to make money because flying airplanes is expensive and I didn't want to pay for that anymore. Discovered a love for flying and teaching flying that remains to this day. Late in 2014, as I mentioned, I got my last flight instructor rating days after my son was born because that's when it's the calmest. My wife at that time was enduring me working a couple jobs, and now that I was a flight instructor, I was flying on the weekends a little bit, and she was also sick of hearing me say, I wonder if we can make money at a flight school. I wonder if we can make money at a flight school. Hey, look at this business plan. It looks pretty good. She got tired of that and the rest and said, look, the weekend stuff has got to stop. If you want to start a flight school, either do it or don't and stop talking about it. Because I need you back, right? And she said it a little differently, but we'll leave it at that. Yeah. So I did. I started a flight school in winter of 2014, which was turned out to be a good decision because there was a lot to do to get a flight school started. And so, boy, at a small business, the best part about working a small business is you get to work your own hours, and then you get to work some more. But for that said, at least it was one job. And so the Lord was in it all the way and grew the business and grew us a little bit along the way. And in 2017, we submitted our package to MAF and we were denied. MAF has a very intensive background check process. There's a lot of hard questions to answer, and they thought that we needed some more help and healing in certain areas. And so they said, not yet, go get some help. And we thought, we're helping people, whatever, MAF, we'll just do it. And so one thing led to another, and that triggered a process through which in spring of 2018, I was forced to confront an addiction that was hurting me, hurting my family, and hurting a lot of things that were important to me. Joined a recovery group, went to counseling for years, both singly as a couple and as a couple. And I would say in that mix, not too long after that, is the experience that amongst it all, I had driving north on Ramsey Road in the Jeep that I owned at the time. And to say that it was difficult would be an understatement. Multiple times I thought I was going to lose the business. Multiple times I thought I was going to lose my marriage and my kids. But now looking back on it, it was necessary. And from that moment on, the business even though every winter, I have a friend that said, oh man, every November I hated hearing from you because you were worried you were going to lose it again. But the business was growing, my kids were growing, and with his help, continuing counseling and recovery groups, I was growing and my wife was growing. That was the hard. The good was my home was transformed, my kids were transformed, my marriage was transformed, and I was transformed because my heart had been transformed. That was my experience. So then we come to fall of 2018. So that was spring of 2018, fall of 2018. Thought it was over again. Had no instructors, no business coming in. The Lord came through. Spring 2019. Thought my marriage would end. It didn't. The Lord came through. COVID 2020. Who remembers that and wishes we could forget it? Thought it was the end, but the Lord made that the most incredible year for my business. It was. I got stories. So then I reapplied to MAF. Our counselor, my wife, we all felt that we were ready. We submitted to MAF, and they said, "Yeah, we like it. Come on down and test with us." So they have a flight. They have a 10-day flight thing that they do, and so I did that, and that was good. And then they told us to sell the business. What? I bled and died for this thing over here. I want to keep it. No, you better sell it. Best decision ever. So we sold that in the winter of 2020, and then we joined MAF in summer of 21. We were assigned to Haiti in early July 2021. Days after that, I'm going to murder the name, President Moise was assassinated. A week after that, some of you here, I believe, were involved in the Lakai earthquake relief effort. So that happened. And we were still at MAF thinking, wait, why did we say yes to Haiti? So then we were raising funding, working on our house, and then we got done with that, and they wanted us to move to Florida. We're like, maybe not. And then they closed the program and moved us to Nampa. So it was a good thing we didn't go to Florida first, because that would have been a lot of driving. In Nampa, we participated in reframing how Haiti could look for MAF. That took a little longer than expected. We were supposed to be there for 6 months, and we were there for a little over a year. And we moved to Pion last September, again, riding on a DC-3 with 2,000 pounds of our stuff. I got stories from that trip too. But settled in Pion, learned to love a lot of aspects of living there, and learned some of the language, but certainly not all. And unfortunately, the gangs moved into Mirabalai, and I think it was late March of this year, and set in motion a chain of events that led to us and our team being withdrawn in May of 23. No, 25. This year's 25. That one. There's a lot I'm reliving right now, so excuse the error. So we arrived in Florida, and we stayed in a peach of an Airbnb, and trying to struggle with what happens next and what's going on. And MAF actually asked us to consider serving here. And so I called up Roger, and the conversation went a little bit like this. He may remember it differently. He says, well, do you have tail wheel time? Yeah. Are you multi-engine rated? Yeah. Oh, we should talk. So one thing led to another, and we prayed over it, and candidly, we thought it was too good to be true, looking at this organization from the outside and what I would be doing, and kind of what was talked about in the onboarding process, and so here we are. Found a place to live. That was a God story too, and now we're here. So I guess what I want to do is I want to leave this with whatever you're struggling with, and everybody's struggling with everything, or with something. That's what I've discovered. Everybody's struggling with something. Whatever you're struggling with, there's help and there's healing, but you might have to go get it. And if I can experience healing, anyone can. Thank you.
But the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness.